Hello, people of the internet, welcome back to another exciting FNaF movie news video. The second FNaF movie has officially begun filming, and so we've got a lot to talk about, including a brand new logo for the film, multiple interviews from the cast and the crew, as well as hopefully, just maybe, a set photo. So if you're excited for the release of the second FNaF movie at the end of next year, scroll down and tickle that subscribe button now that filming has officially begun. I mean, news is about to skyrocket. And to kick off this video, let's talk about the very first FNaF movie, which released over a year ago now. And to celebrate Halloween, Blumhouse released the film back in theaters exclusively at AMC theaters on October the 30th, and at that re-release screening, we got a lot of brand new info. First up is this teaser video showcasing some logos for upcoming Blumhouse films, and wouldn't you know it, at the very end is this logo for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It's a very simple yet I think aesthetically pleasing logo, and again you got the release date down there. And then after that video, right before the movie started playing, we got some messages from Jason Blum, as well as Emma Tammy, who is the director, so I'll play those for you right here.
Tonight, you'll be seeing Five Nights at Freddy's. And there's very little I can tell fans of this film that you don't already know. But there is one thing. Normally, movies go through a test screening process where audiences are recruited to come watch an early work-in-progress cut of a movie. Then, when a general audience gives feedback, a lot of times you shoot some more scenes or change the cut a bit. But because there was an actor's strike going on while Freddys was in post-production, we couldn't do that. So Scott and the director, Emma Tammy, went about finishing the movie without the typical test screening process. Actually, the only people who saw it and gave feedback were friends of Blumhouse employees who happened to be Freddy's superfans. These fans loved the movie so much and gave such great feedback that made the movie even better for all of you. So Five Nights at Freddy's was really a movie made for the fans, but in some ways also by the fans.
We are actually at Jim Henson's Creature Shop right now, building the new animatronics for the sequel film. And we are so excited to be working on this sequel for you all, the fans of this film.
So some nice behind the scenes there. As you heard, Emma Tammy said they're at Jim Henson's making the animatronics. Likely these videos were pre-recorded, so I'd imagine now that filming has begun, all the characters are done for the second film. And lastly, for FNaF 1 movie news, we had Matthew Lillard, who plays William Afton in the film, reacting to his iconic spring lock scene in the first movie. This is what he had to say.
Oh, this is the death scene. Although I never die. The crazy thing about this is my voice is gone because I was so sick. I was like, I had just done a con the weekend before and I got con crud. And this whole sequence, I'm super sick. Oh, and I get spring trapped. Poor kids, they come up to me, they're like, did it hurt? I'm like, it's not real, son.
Absolutely surreal that he was sick while filming that spring lock scene, so mad props to Matthew. Alright, well now let's move on to some FNaF 2 movie news. You may remember last month in October, Blumhouse revealed the first official poster for FNaF 2 at New York Comic Con, where it featured Toy Freddy peeking out from behind the show stage curtain. Well, recently, Blumhouse released this motion graphic of the poster showing Toy Freddy moving around a little bit. This was a promotion for their sweepstakes to win a trip to the premiere of the second FNaF movie. That sweepstakes has now concluded, so hopefully you signed up in time. But then also at New York Comic Con, when they revealed that Toy Freddy poster, we had some interviews with Jason Blum.
The fun thing about the sequel to Freddy's is Scott was played the same role in the second movie they did in the first movie, but now Scott really totally gets the movie business, so it's even more of his vision, and it's going to be amazing. I mean,
how do you follow that up?
We start shooting the movie in a week.
Such a good,
only Scott Cawthon could follow it up, and he did. And Emma and the cast. We've got all the original cast back, and our director Emma, who's did a terrific job with the movie. So yeah, comes out next year.
Not really much to tease there, but it is nice to hear that Scott is more comfortable now in the movie business. It makes sense with how successful the first movie was, and especially how involved he was with that first film. So it's amazing to hear that he's more confident, more comfortable making yet another movie. And it's also exciting to hear that the movie is more of his vision. I can't wait to see what that means. And then also what's interesting is that in that interview, Jason said that they have the entire original cast back, which in a way makes sense. We've heard that Josh Hutcherson, who plays Mike, Matthew Lillard, who plays William Afton, Piper Rubio, who plays Abby, as well as Elizabeth Leo, who plays Vanessa, they're all returning. But that quote got a lot of people theorizing, what does he mean by the entire cast? Does that mean that the Wrecking Crew crew is coming back. Yes, they did die in that first movie, but maybe they're coming back as hallucinations, maybe they're coming back as ghosts, possessing the animatronics that they got stuffed into in the back room, you know, Sparky, Shadow Freddy. Aunt Jane, did she actually die? We just saw her lying on the floor after Golden Freddy was in her house. Maybe she's just knocked out, maybe she's gonna come back for even more vengeance against Mike, maybe they can bring back Doug. MatPat as Ness, Corey X Kenshin as the cab driver. I mean, there was a lot of the original cast that could be returning. And then also at New York Comic Con, we had Matthew Lillard talk a bit about the second movie. He talked about his beard, which, yes, actually is important.
We're about to start, that's why I have this crazy beard. Really dramatic. So we're about to go do the sequel, which is good news. And it will be out in movie theaters 2025 at Christmas.
So the fact that Matthew has to alter his beard either by growing it out or maybe shaving it soon, that's led a lot of fans to speculate maybe we're gonna see some flashbacks involving William in the second movie. That was something heavily hinted at in the first movie and something a lot of fans are expecting going into the sequel. And then Matthew also had an interview with Entertainment Tonight where he described the film as an action-packed film.
I think the fans fell in love with what we did. I think that Scott is the shepherd of this incredible project. And I think that collectively the filmmakers listened to some of the criticism that they got. And I think they're growing as filmmakers, and I think this film is going to be tonally a little different. I think we're going to have a lot more things that the fans wanted to see the first movie. Look, I think there's going to be I think it's going to be an action-packed film. I think it's going to be very exciting, and I think fans, again, I think this is fan-centric, and I think they're going to love it.
Which is super interesting to hear. In past interviews, he also described the film as having more action. And I've seen a lot of fans online theorize that the movie is going to be focused on more action, like fight scenes, as opposed to horror, which I don't think is what Matthew's trying to say here. I think by action-packed, he just means there's going to be a lot more going on in the film. A lot more animatronics, a lot more human characters, a lot more plot lines and backstory to focus on. I don't think he means like Mike's going to be squaring up against Withered Freddy. I don't think that's what's going to happen, man. Though it would be cool to see. And then in yet another Matthew Lillard interview, Matthew, thank you so much for doing all these interviews. He was asked if FNaF 2 would be rated R, which we already know it'll be rated PG-13 like the first FNaF film, but the reason why I'm including this clip is because he also talked about Scott's thoughts on a rated R FNaF movie, so here's what he had to say.
Do you know if they're planning on doing the next one in rated R or not?
I know they're not doing rated R.
Okay.
I know that they are committed to, and Scott's committed to no gore.
Yeah.
Right. I think I mean, I don't want to speak for Scott, God knows, but in general, that's not where he lives. It's not what he likes. He doesn't like that in the world.
Sure.
And yes, it's a story of a man who murders a bunch of children, but it's really evocative rather than in your face.
I preferred that.
And I think that the movie's grown a lot from where the first one was. I think that I think that they've heard some of the things the fans may have wanted, more action, more stuff. I think that the film has progressed, and I think it's going to be really exciting for fans. I think they're going to eat it alive.
So there you have it. I feel like that outright confirms we will never get a rated R FNaF film, which honestly makes a lot of sense. FNaF has always been targeted at adolescents, T for teens, you know, PG-13. It's just never been a super mature, graphic, gory franchise, and I think Scott and everyone working on the films knows that. We have heard from scoopers as well as the cast themselves, like Josh Hutcherson, say that the second film will be a lot more scarier. So honestly, I feel like that's the best we could ask for. At least the cast and the crew know that the first film was pretty tame and fans are expecting something a bit more extreme, especially with those wizards. And at the start of this video, I mentioned that filming for FNaF 2 has officially begun, and that is true. Thanks to, wouldn't you believe it, another interview with Matthew Lillard, he confirmed that filming began on the 27th of October, which perfect timing was the 1-year anniversary of the first FNaF film, though we have also heard that Matthew will not begin filming his scenes for the film until the 4th of November, which should be today by the time you're watching this video, which leads me to mention what's going on with these set photos. We heard from Scott in a YouTube live stream that he would be sharing photos from the set once filming began, so since they didn't release a day 1 filming post like what they did for the first movie, I'm guessing when Matthew Lillard starts filming on November the 4th, we might get one then. The second FNaF game also turns 10 years old, which already crazy to think about, on the 11th of November, and since this film is based on that game, it's the big 10th anniversary for the source material, maybe we're gonna get a set photo or maybe something bigger like a new poster on that day. Now, just because we haven't heard anything from Scott or Blumhouse, that doesn't necessarily necessarily mean we don't have any set photos, because recently we had an Instagram user post these photos of their kids meeting Josh Hutcherson, and in the caption they claimed that that night Josh was filming for FNaF 2. Somehow FNaF fans were able to find out that they were standing in front of a Dollar General, and if you recall, back during the 10th anniversary, we got 4 pages from the FNaF 2 screenplay posted by the Scott Games Twitter account. 3 of them were fake, only 1 of them is real, and actually on page 56, the 3rd option, Mike and Abby are talking about burning plushies, and then in the next scene, Mike is at a gas station, where he then dials Vanessa and he tells her to wear dark clothes because they have a job to do. Presumably, he's buying gas to go burn some plushies. So it's entirely possible they were filming that scene. However, there's a few things to take into account. Number 1, Dollar General is not a gas station. And number 2, it's entirely possible Josh was just shopping around at Dollar General. And when he met up with these people, he told them that he was in the state because he was filming FNaF 2. I'm personally going to take them at their word that they were filming at that location, and it lines up pretty well with the script that we've already seen. And then you also may have seen recently that YouTube user Showbiz Pizza Fan 1979, they went out and visited the original location where they built the facade for the first FNaF movie's pizzeria, and interestingly enough, when they visited, there was a sign that says, "Do not cut the grass." But what was super interesting is that at that location, you can see there's a few wooden pillars put up where the original facade was located. So they visited the original facade location, and you can see it looks like they're putting up brand new pillars for maybe a brand new facade for the second film. The timeline also lines up pretty well with the first movie. Filming for FNaF 1 began on the 1st of February, and then a week or 2 after that, they started constructing the facade of the pizzeria, where it was then completed towards the end of the month, and then they started shooting scenes there. If you recall, that's actually where we got our first leak of the real-life animatronics outside that building for the poster with Abby. And then by the middle of March, they had taken down the facade and they had finished wrapping at that area. A lot of people have pointed out that those pillars look like the early workings for a facade, so I will be keeping a close eye on this. For now, I'd say keep your expectations a bit low because we really don't know what's going on here. We don't even know if that's Universal and Blumhouse working on those pillars. But it is certainly very interesting, and it'll certainly be very exciting once we get a brand new facade, a brand new pizzeria to keep track of the development of. But that is all the movie news we have today. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all on the flip side. Goodbye.